obviously, from Xavi Simons to Facundo Buonanotte, not the same kind of player. Not the same even spice or impact or ability essentially, and even inclusion in terms of what he gives the team of Chelsea Football Club. But see, I have a lot of explanation to give, a lot of details, a lot of insight to talk about this Facundo Buonanotte player who has been linked to Chelsea Football Club. First of all, why it's supposed to be on loan, and then the plan already that Chelsea has for him. Why they didn't decide last minute to stop the conversation around Xavi Simons and all of that conversation now has on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Of course, I Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing as I say. This evening on Friday, a lot of the pre-match analysis for you, Enzo Maresca versus Marco Silva. Last season, Chelsea dropped a point at home against Fulham. Again, this season, there is that tendency that Chelsea can drop points also against Fulham. So we'll talk about all of that as on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Delve into the detail, do the post-match, pre-match analysis, and have a lot of things to talk. Of course, there are more updates also from Football Club Barcelona, also from Real Madrid and all the other teams now. We'll talk about all of that as on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Turn on notification if you've not done that. And of course, in the notification turning, make sure that you do choose all, just so anytime that there is content here, you are first to have it here on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. So I'm expecting to hear from you. I'm expecting to say, come hear from you quickly on here on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. We'll talk about the games, talk about Yamiad Mochamat's game, Chelsea Boy, how important it is for Chelsea Football Club over there. Of course, we all know, say, the big target for Chelsea in number 10 position, and what that player was going to bring is supposed to be more or less like somebody who can back up Cole Palmer, and I say somebody who can play even with Cole Palmer and compete with him. To the extent, say, times where Chelsea need an extra 10, even on the left-hand channel, no, to break down attacks, they can fall on that quality of that profile. And we're talking about Obi Aoye, nimble footed, good ball carrier, somebody who is very good in tight spaces. And again, Sedi Pakona can give you goals and assists in that regard. So obviously, there was the need for somebody of that skill set, particular skill set. And again, when you look at the trajectory career-wise of our branch here, friend Xavi Simons, he has shown that quality in that regard. Plays with both feet, tight space, controller, is a good finisher, assist when he has to. He does all of that job brilliantly well. So then obviously it was very clear to Chelsea for had a plan for him. He was a player that Chelsea had targeted 6 weeks ago, 6 weeks, and at the first contacts in the buyer when he was in preseason with RB Leipzig. So obviously everybody believed and knew that there is always going to be a certain Xavi Simons in the Chelsea conversation. I said when that was going to come in, I said when Chelsea were going to do that job and how Chelsea planned to do that job. What we knew was that Chelsea had to free up some financial space. And in one of the financial space was about letting Christopher Nkunku go. Because again, Chelsea had to at least make sure that the players that they are registered, in simple terms, players that they are registered in the second part of the season, the knockout phase of the conference league last season, some of them would go. And if they do, then how then do they come and replace them with other players? Because you can't have those players there not playing, being on the books and increasing the annual amortization value of the club, and then also bringing in some new players. So it was essentially a UEFA's sanction on Chelsea in terms of financial stability and financial uprightness. Or Chelsea, I mean, what the regular fan will talk about the FFP. But of course, Xavi Simons waiting for almost 6 weeks, and in that 6 weeks, there had been a lot of stories about how we're turning down Bayern, we're turning down Leipzig, we're turning down Tottenham Hotspur, a lot of the clubs. But on the final day, or just a few days to the end of the season of the transfer window, Xavi Simons gets permission from Leipzig, flies to London, waiting for Chelsea essentially, but then Chelsea never showed up. Never showed up. To the extent that as it stands now, I say Xavi Simons has officially signed for Tottenham Hotspur. He is a Tottenham Hotspur player. He's going to wear the black and white for Tottenham Hotspur and play under Thomas Frank as the manager of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. So it's rather took an interesting turn on events on our branch here, friend Xavi Simons. He traveled to London to get a job. I don't think, sir, it is Xavi Simons that rejected Chelsea. I think essentially it is Chelsea that decided not to go on that tangent again. Because, I mean, why would you be targeted with a player want to get in a player for 6 weeks constantly. When a player didn't come more, you've convinced him about your project, what you want to do, how you want to do it, where he will play. In fact, there have been a lot of clubs, and they were long-standing personal agreements, things that had been agreed for a very long time, to make sure that they get a job done, and make sure Sabentia and Xavi Simons could come and play the game of football that Chelsea have wanted him to play. But assistant for me, for things whatever, Chelsea never really got it done. So that was essentially Chelsea that decided not to go on again with a conversation around Xavi Simons. But then really, why would Chelsea decide not to go on with a conversation around Xavi Simons? I didn't know Chelsea, after targeting a player for that long, would decide not to go on with him. And we're going to talk about all of that conversation, Mel Hassi, on why Chelsea decided, say, Xavi Simons is not a player that they are going to do a job for over there. We'll see how things are going to go on in terms of Xavi Simons. Of course, that is gone. And Chelsea, then we heard that Chelsea were being linked to a young Argentine player called Facundo Buonanotte. And I think, say, more or less, Chelsea want to use Facundo Buonanotte as a player that's in the sense of, your first target. We didn't get a first target. So we need a backup as in number 10 in case there is an injury, in case there is a low form in Cole Palmer or what have you, then we can have a similar profile. More or less like the kind of job Kenan Drisby came to do at Chelsea. And again, Brighton were unwilling to do a permanent purchase. And again, also, in the case of Chelsea, getting another player that can come and get a job done was, in the case this time, a loan deal. It's not totally tied to Chelsea having him. And yes, Strasbourg, it's straight how Chelsea are going to have to make sure, say, how they can make sure, say, they have a backup for him. Now, one of the things I've been thinking about is that in the last hours, where Chelsea were worried about whether Xavi Simons is going to block the pathway for the likes of Kendry, for the likes of the other young Chelsea players that can play as a 10. Next season, when somebody like Giovanni Coenda comes in, does the Xavi Simons arrival block that pathway of the team? And in that, they decided last minute, okay, fine, then we have to stay away from the Xavi Simons deal and rather focus on other areas of play and bring in a quality. Even if we do such a deal, then it has to be on loan, like this one from my brand friend Facundo Buonanotte on loan. And I can say, once it's a loan, for me, I don't have a problem. And again, it tells you completely a backup for that area of play. We'll talk about the quality of our bench friend Facundo Buonanotte. I'll delve into all of that nitty-gritty very, very soon. But then immediately the deal was confirmed from David Osteen, from Fabrizio, from Mark Law, and a lot of the guys over there who are close to the situation, that it was a loan deal. For me, I began to understand that, okay, then fine. That it means that Chelsea are looking at a backup deal over here for a year to allow somebody like, again, Giovanni Coenda, when they come, they are not blocked. Kendry Pie, when they come in, you are not blocked. And I like how now Chelsea are thinking about the players that they've invested in, because in the past, it's only about, say, okay, what a young pool of players, but you also want to succeed. And that is, I've said it several times, where Chelsea had gotten to in their projects is where now you've done the investment, but how do you balance the investment to those who are ready to play to give you the results now, and then those who are ready to play to give you the results now, and decides, okay, we'll sell this will go on loan. But if that one goes on loan, how do you make sure, say, you don't block the pathway of that player not to come in? It is very, very important from the part of Chelsea Football Club. So we'll talk essentially about my brand here, friend, Giovanni, not Giovanni Coenda, brand here, friend, Facundo Buonanotte over there. But of course, Xavi Simons already has turned away to go and play Ewotima, your friend of Tottenham Hotspur. And that is quality stuff for me. I think that most likely he is going to do well. He is going to do very, very well in terms of how well he plays, the quality of play and stuff like that. I think that a brand here, friend of Xavi Simons going to do well. Chelsea were working on a deal to sign Facundo Buonanotte from Brighton. Negotiations are underway. The Buonanotte story tells me Chelsea did not want to spend a lot on a backup. Players like Buonanotte won't be as demanding as Simons. And of course, I think that at the end of the day, again, in transfer conversation, it's about the end justifying the means. The player that comes in, can they come in and justify the win? In Ariano, I heard people talking about the Chelsea one also been linked to a branch friend Adam Wharton. For me, I always knew that Adam Wharton conversation was not going to wash, because that was not the kind of player that Chelsea wanted. Chelsea did not want a deep line playmaker, and that is really the quality of what Adam Watson is. He is really that kind of guy that can do his job in a deep line playmaking role as an attacking eight, but then not particularly as a 10 that breaks down blocks. I mean, he plays in a less possession teams, and his job is to play very good balls in transitions to find attackers to bring down those teams. But really, he is not a guy that is able to do the job in terms of the transition, the breaking down of blocks in the mid block, in the low block, all of those things. That is particularly not the stock in trade of our brand and Adam Watson. So that for me was something that was not going to happen. Was not going to happen when it comes to my brand here, your friend Adam Watson, and then he coming to Chelsea. Oh, I don't know. We'll see how Chelsea will do that deal for brand here, your friend Facundo Buonanotte. But of course, let's talk about the quality of Buonanotte and what he brings to Chelsea team. And the analysis of him. What kind of player is he? The quality that he gives him. See, one of the things that I know is that essentially he is also similar to Xavi Simons. And the first thing is about the center of gravity, and it's the center of gravity because one, you're looking at ball carrying, you're looking at ball retention, you're looking at somebody that's supposed to also be a good dribbler. So players that are able to dominate smaller spaces. So I mean, Buonanotte is not a bad player. He has been good for a couple of seasons ago when he was at Brighton, and then he went on loan to Leicester City. Last season in the Premier League, Leicester generally as a club suffered. He has not really hit the height where Brighton expected him to hit as the kind of player that he is. Brighton expected more from him, but he hasn't been able to hit that levels just yet as a player. But again, in the general sense, or a player or you're just similar to Xavi Simons, tight space occupier, tight space controller, and or dominating tight spaces. Some players don't dominating tight spaces. No, they do that with dribbling, ball carrying, ball security, ball retention, and then of course, quality chance creation. So when you play these guys against teams that are sitting deep, you expect them to nitpick the team. And again, it is stuck in trade from Brighton and Hove Albion, and even going to Leicester City, and he likes that small space confrontations. And for me, I like that from him. You see, sir, Onyaboa, he doesn't stop coming at you. And again, it's another very similarity to what Xavi Simons will do. These guys are not your passers. They don't get the ball and want to pass back or pass to the sideways or pass forward or even play a dink ball into the box. No, they want to carry the ball. It's like when you have a boxer and then this boxer's job is to face an opponent man for man, like boxers that face it. But these people are with their feet to carry the ball, to dribble, to come at you, dominate those tight spaces. Again, I think that the issue with Facundo Buonanotte, the main difference is Xavi Simons can do this and do this over large spaces. In fact, Xavi Simons can pick up the ball from his own area and then run through the opponent, wriggle through, because he is very good in terms of large spaces. But Facundo Buonanotte does it in shorter distances. So when you have been able to progress the ball into more or less the final third, and then you need somebody to net pick it, to confront those tight spaces, to tear them apart and then break things down. That is where Facundo Buonanotte comes in to get the job done over there. I think that, again, that is where the bigger issue is. And when he gets to that area, where he looks better than a bench friend Xavi Simons is the creative pass that he has. So you see, because Xavi Simons is technically very gifted with ball retention, he hardly ever goes in for those creative dinks. Now, again, so generally, these players are tight space dominators. These players are good dribblers. These players can nitpick the smaller spaces that I give them. They confront the smaller spaces. Again, I made an example of a confrontational boxer. Or don't know, he'll come at you, man for pound. Bominamin Bobby. These guys are the same with their feet. They don't shy away with dribbling and playing through. But Xavi Simons always wants to dribble into the box. Now, Facundo Buonanotte, whilst he has a little downside of large space, ball carrying and stuff like that, in the final third, he is essentially the kind of guy that can also give you that creative passing ability. So I think that's something that Chelsea have lacked in recent times, where Enzo Maresca decides in games like this, he wants to rather stretch play as much as possible and see, obey using the wingers not to keep the weight. Now, when you watch that game against Crystal Palace, one of the things that Crystal Palace did very well was that They were happy for Chelsea to stretch play. And in stretching play, they used their wing backs to occupy that part of the pitch and then, cut it out. While centrally, outside centre backs now, that they gave the license to be aggressive and step up in players in those tight spaces. So in that time, you need somebody that is comfortable on the half turn. And see, Xavi Simons would have been perfect. Perfect. It is not about profile wise. It's not about um the quality of the player, why Chelsea went down him. I think that essentially, purely it comes down to not blocking the pathway of Kendry, not blocking the pathway of Quenda, and again, not spending probably way too much on then somebody that looks like a backup to Cole Palmer in that regard. I don't agree that that is the reasoning. I feel like in games like you need a quality of depth in there. But again, I go back and I talk about the fact that yes, Xavi Simons can do that job, but it is not too far-fetched of a branch friend Facundo Buonanotte. Yes, he is not on that level in terms of what he has shown. It's not about the ability. The ability, I think he will have the ability as much as Xavi Simons will have it, but he has not shown it. He doesn't have the body of work to prove for it. You can only waffle and talk about it, but there are also signs, and that's where when you look at the eye test and even the data, it supposes that there are some positive signs that Abranti friend Facundo Buonanotte can be good in that regard over there as well. And I think we're going to see how things are going to see how things are going to go on from there. I like his lateral burst of pace now when he's taking on players. Our strong core and an upper body, and that helps him in his ball retention and absorption of contact in a high degree. Nothing feels forced on him, a natural player in that regard. And that's what I like. I like the fact that one of the things I actually like about what Chelsea have done with Facundo Buonanotte is that I like the fact that they've gone in for a like player of Xavi Simons. Similar frame, upper body strength, tight space controller, like I've mentioned, the core strength, guiding and protecting balls and getting the job done in that regard. And I like that for my branch here friend Facundo Buonanotte. But still, it's about he delivering. It's about he showing it at club like Chelsea Football Club. And again, it is also about he Facundo Buonanotte and Chelsea not blocking the party of others and then making what they think is a prudent financial decision. I think that what Chelsea did with Xavi Simons is purely financial and then purely from a futuristic projection on the kind of players that they bought over there. I think that sometimes he has issues with his waste of pass and his first touch and stuff like that. But then quality player. See, I remember a goal where Facundo Buonanotte scored last season for Brighton and Hove Albion. He set it up actually for Team Friend Brighton and Hove Albion when they played against Liverpool. Those tight space control. I mean, for a player, he just takes the ball 1-2 and then passes, and he can break you down. Once you close him down, the upper body corners is good. He absorbs that pressure very well and gets that job done. So he's a kind of player that gives that ability, that plan to break down teams. He got injured and he had to move on from Klaba, your friend of Brighton and Hove Albion. When he came back, he went on loan. And in the 2024-2025 season, when he had 31 appearances, 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 goal involvement, 1.47 key passes per game. So he's a key pass player, like I mentioned. He has a creative pass more than Xavi Simons even has in his game, and also a dribbler. And that data also shows in there when he has 4.78 dribbles per 90. That is in the top echelon of dribblers. And again, Chelsea wants a dribbler. Chelsea needed a dribbler. But then what kind of dribbler will not come and block Kendry Pire, block Giovanni Quenda, can do that job and not even be too much of an issue if he's on the bench? It's Facundo Buonanotte over there. He has an XG per 90 of 0.27 per 90. And it looks as if that's a very, very good shooting accuracy for our branch friend Facundo Buonanotte. When you look at the scout report of the player that's coming, it's particularly interesting in terms of what Buonanotte can do and what a lot of the analysts talk about Buonanotte's quality. But in the general sense, he's the same player as Xavi Simons. Next, speaking of players, tight space player, breaking down of very, very aggressive and then compact blocks, and then making sure that they break those things down over there. So, I mean, like I said, it's the center of gravity is slow. It is also very, very great. It's difficult for you to break him down again over there. And it likes to pick the ball in a position. I mean, that Facundo, like I said, he doesn't do too much well in long distance. So you have to give him the ball close to the box. I mean, the final third area when you're able to do the first and second phase of ball progression. But that's why I think that again, that is where Xavi Simons edges Facundo Buonanotte. Xavi Simons can carry the ball over large distances against these blocks, and you don't have to do a lot of passing, especially like that game against Crystal Palace, because everything was wrong. Angles of Chaloba and the likes were always disadvantageous. How do you get your player to carry the ball through them? It was very, very important in that regard over there. And if you look at the data and almost everything, can go players with ease with any player and has a powerful left foot as well. Great football brain and also just 20 years of age. Of course, that powerful left foot is very, very important. Of course, if you look at the data that we talk about, you can see against Leicester City, he played extremely well against Manchester City last season. It's something different from what Chelsea, and it's something that Chelsea don't have. Something that Chelsea do not have in the final third. Pace, dribbling, and again, if I say that, I also have to go back and say that that is why Chelsea wanted Xavi Simons. But again, because of ABCD reason, Chelsea decided, okay, we need a cheaper version of what Xavi Simons can do. And the data is clear in terms of what Facundo Buonanotte can do for you over there. And of course, he has 9 goals plus 4 assists in 3,444 minutes of action in the Premier League. Of course, a goal or assist every 265 minutes of action. At 20, he's far from finish an article, of course, by a player who could absolutely thrive with regular game time. Good signing if all goes to plan again. Like I say, he doesn't have too much to show for in terms of his body of work, but potential again, and somebody that's shown that he can do the job. So that is the story of Facundo Buonanotte. Essentially, he's a central attacking midfielder, right wing hybrid player, because when he comes inside, he has that left foot to use it in that half space when he comes off the right hand. Of course, even also on the left hand side, if you need him to put in crosses rather than just attacking the space over there. Most of his game is actually as a number 10 on the left hand side. He's at the moment good backup, especially when they talk about Cole Palmer and what Cole Palmer can do. Buonanotte actually have a decent depth of knowledge, and I've always thought his quality defensively. He's outrageous, better than Simons in that regard defensively. I need to look at that as well. A very good 1v1 player, of course, you mentioned that as well. And that is exactly why Chelsea look like they've gone in for a certain Facundo Buonanotte. And when you look at the data, Facundo would be convinced by the of course how Chelsea going to go and play. So we'll see how things go on with our branch friend Facundo Buonanotte. Chelsea obviously thinking that he's an important player in that regard. So that is done. That is done. Facundo Buonanotte to Chelsea. What we hear is that it's a deal that is just only a matter of time. It's going to happen for Chelsea Football Club. We'll see exactly how Facundo fares in terms of how things are going to go. And if we speak to Roberto Di Zerbi about Facundo last week, so I'll say this is what Roberto Di Zerbi said about Facundo Buonanotte. He says, I have to speak about Facundo like I've spoken about Steven Alzate. I would like to keep him with us, but I have to be honest and clear. I think his first part of last season, Evan, Julio and Sisio felt as though they were losing time. And at the end of the season, they changed my decision. With young players, you have to find the right moment to put them on the pitch. Facundo, in the last 5-6 games of the season, has been important, but Solimatch didn't play, so that can change the situation. But I have in Facundo a lot. But also, I believe in Facundo a lot, and I think he can become an important player. I can't give him my word that he'll play 40, 50, 30 games, but maybe wants to play on loan. I don't know. Of course, he's a young player that always wanted to go on and play football. Didn't get that much time because Brighton, full of talent, was also a lot at the time when Roberto Di Zerbi was there in the kind of way they wanted to play their game. But he went on loan to Leicester City. People saw how good he was, even in a very bad Leicester City team. Of course, he's a quality player in that regard. We'll see how our branch friend Facundo Buonanotte will be able to fare our Chelsea Football Club. As stands now, Chelsea have moved on from Xavi Simons and the conversation on our branch friend Facundo Buonanotte. I always believe that Chelsea were not going to pay that 90 million or 70 million for a certain Fermin Lopez to move from Barcelona to come and play. Of course, Nyami had much. Chelsea has a big game to play against Fulham. Enzo Maresca, in the pre-match press conference, the first thing that he said over there was that a branch friend Cole Palmer, Romeo Lavia, and all of these things are not there. I see all of these guys, Cole Palmer, Romeo Lavia, Benoit Belachile. He said all of these guys are not in there. They can't play the game now Chelsea for are going to play against team, your friend of Fulham. So definitely it's not going to happen. And a lot of people have been speaking, especially Chris Hughton. So my gut feeling is Chelsea have got a great deal of confidence from the manner in which they beat West Ham. I like Fulham, of course. I think that Chelsea have got a job done. Maresca spoke about Romeo Lavia. I think 3 years ago he didn't play any game. Last year he played some games. This season the target again is to give him more minutes, and hopefully in the moment he is back, he can be fit for a long time, play more minutes, more games, because he's a player we really trust. And that is what Enzo Maresca is talking about, the quality of Abrantia, your friend Romeo Lavia, and what he brings to the team. So they trust him. Yes, he's not fully fit. The plan is that this season they'll give him some more time for Abrantia, your friend Chelsea Football Club. Maresca went and says, I will say again, we are much of a better team with Cole Palmer, no doubt. But when Cole is not in the game, we need to find a different solution. And that is clear that Chelsea Fono have to find a different solution in the absence of our branch friend Cole Palmer in a very difficult game. I think that Chelsea Fono now wants to make sure that they have set up the team in a way where they can compete. It's a smart one in that regard. I'm going to play against Fulham. In the absence of Cole Palmer, what is going to be the tactical setup for Chelsea? The 4-2-3-1, who plays as a second, as a number 10 in behind. It means also that either Estevao or Jimmy Bino gets to start together with Joao Pedro. And I like it. I think that one of the first things about this game is about how Chelsea will keep the ball low and then control the game's tempo. Now, Marco Silva is an excellent manager, but also tries so much on the physicality of his players. He does so much of that with Abantia, your friend Calvin Bassey at the back, Anderson. Very aggressive guys. I just don't know if they'll play the same way as they did the last time out against Crystal Palace. The last time Crystal Palace played over there at Stamford Bridge. I don't know if that's exactly how they'll play, but we'll see exactly how it pans. I think that the game is going to be very tactical. I think it's going to be hugely tactical. It's going to be hugely tactical, and then how Chelsea are going to manage it is about how Chelsea can control the ball. Again, it's good that Brentford Tosin Adrebiayo is back in the team, because what that means is that Chelsea have the quality player, especially at CCB, to control the tempo of the game. And I'm expecting the lineup at Chelsea will not be too different. This time, I rather want Estevao Willian on wide to play as a wide player. Senebea, JP, Joao Pedro remains as a number 9. James starts and inverts into the middle of the park. Marco Crea can now be the left centre back in that regard. Especially Senebea, the angles can be favourable. And like I said the last time, Fulham is a very well balanced team, and a side that can do everything well enough. Set pieces, you can press high, you can press mid, you can stay deeper. Wide defending, box defending, transitions. I mean, almost everything that you want from any team they play against, Fulham has it for you. And it means their games are middle level games. They defend very compact 4-4-2 without the ball, and expect Chelsea to line up in a 3-5-2 with the ball in the final leg, with 5 over there. Very zonal team, very zonal team in that regard. I think that this is a match. If Chelsea are going into it and they start to Chaloba, Tosin, Reece James, and Kuku, then the back three becomes Kukrera as part of the back three on the left hand side. Then either Reece inverts into the middle of the park, or of course he goes into the half space, because you can't have Mabrante friend Kukrera rather playing as a player who is going to be inverted. Then that's going to affect Chelsea's angles from the left hand channel area. You do not want that. Of course, Joao Pedro, Neto, and Mabrante friend and Liam Delap. Again, do you want Joao Pedro to be on the left hand side, or you want him on the right? This is also a big question where Enzo Maresca has to ask again. Like I said, without the ball, it has to be a 3-5-2, a 3-2-5, sorry, in the last line, where Chelsea's plan will be to overload it and then get a job done in that regard. We'll see how things are going to pan out from that. I think that's going to be a particularly interesting match, but Chelsea has that quality to break down that Fulham side. Fulham give you the chance to get a job done. We'll see how things are going to go on from there when it comes to my brand, Chelsea Football Club and their game against Fulham in the English Premier League in the next few hours. It's an early kickoff, so it's a game where you know that you need to be very careful. When watch Manchester United, Fulham were very smart in dealing with them. Their defensive style was one of the best